Welcome to another episode of Cadence Fishing TV. I'm fishing today at the beautiful Packington Fisheries on the carp syndicate lake called Broadwater. And I've already started to catch some absolutely beautiful roach like that one. Chappy's set me one of his Chappy challenges today, and he wants me to try and catch 40 pounds of silverfish. And we've started quite well, so we're going to limit the session to 5 hours. I still think that's quite a tough challenge. It's also given me the chance to use my new CP1000 Pole, which is due to come out in August this year. I started off the session by balling in about 10 big balls of ground bait at 13 metres, and I packed it with loads of pellets, corn and casters, because I know that this venue is very prolific for roach and skimmers. And I've actually been coming down a fair bit, just doing a bit of pleasure fishing and a bit of practicing on the waggler, and been catching some beautiful roach and hybrids and odd bream. Today I thought it'd be good to have a go on the pole, and I'm already absolutely thoroughly enjoying this. It's great sport catching quality roach like this. So I mentioned that these are carp syndicate lakes, and I actually join to target the silverfish because it really is fantastic fishing. There's 3 lakes here: Burnet Iron, Broadwater and Cott's Close. And I love fishing Cott's Close. It's a very clear lake and a bit deeper than Broadwater. The roach are bigger, they're not quite as plentiful, and there's some beautiful tench as well. But as you can see, Broadwater's absolutely packed with these beautiful quality roach. And I'll just hold that one up and show you, but that one's got to be 6 ounces anyway. Beautiful, plump, perfect condition roach. So it's quite a positive move really, balling in 10 or 12 big balls of ground bait packed with feed. But I think given the fact that it is a specimen carp lake, the carp anglers really do feed a lot of bait, and I think the roach and the other silverfish get quite accustomed to feeding on that bait. Well, that's a bit of a smaller one. So my plan today is to predominantly use ground bait. I'm not going to loose feed because I want to be really positive and keep the fish on the bottom and try and sort out the better quality fish. So I mixed up quite a lot of ground bait, but it's not an expensive mix. It's probably 70% brown crumb, and then the rest is just a mixture of ground pellets and actual micro pellets as well that I added to the mix. So the mix has got loads and loads of food content, but it's not too expensive, so you can feed a lot of it. I'm catching on double red maggot at the moment, but I'm hoping to try to wean them onto sweet corn and perhaps target some better stamp fish and be a bit more selective. Again, sweet corn's quite a cheap bait, so when you're feeding a lot of bait like this, obviously it's a consideration to try and make the day a bit more economical. Well, after the initial sort of bombardment of ground bait, I'm topping up perhaps every second or third fish with a good sized ball of ground bait like that. And obviously I've got to keep feeding to keep the shoaler roach happy and keep them in my peg. Well, that's a better one, look. I think it's probably fair to say you couldn't really overfeed the fish when you're fishing a venue like this and the fish are really feeding. So it's just a matter of ensuring that you're feeding enough to keep them in your peg. Well, we've had a great response to our flagship pole, which is the CP1000, and that's sort of a all-round competition pole, and we felt there was a need for a stronger version, and that's what we've created with the CP1000. So it's actually built off the same mandrel, so it totally interchanges with the CP1000. So it's a similar stiffness to the CP1000, certainly at 13 meters, but it's quite a lot stronger and a little bit heavier. So it's great for situations where you're obviously fishing with heavier gear, and also when you're fishing for bigger fish like carp on commercial. So the pole will take a lot more abuse. We're offering it up to 16 meters, same as the CP1000, and with the same kind of concept with the package, in that you create your own package. So if you have a look online on the website, you'll be able to see all the top kits and extensions that are available for the poles, and that way you can make your own package to perfectly meet your own needs. Well, that was a welcome bonus. Absolutely beautiful tench. I'll just unhook him and hold him up for you. One thing that I've got a query, Chappy, does a tench count in the £40 Chappy challenge?
Yes, it does.
That's good then. He's got to be £3, maybe even £4. Yeah, absolutely love tench. What a beautiful fish. So powerful as well. When I hooked it, it took off. Let's get him in the net. Well, just before I caught that tench, I started to get a few smaller roach. So I just adjusted my rig slightly, which I'll just show you now. Before, I'd got shot spread out in the bottom sort of third of the rig. And what I've actually done now is I've made the rig a lot more positive. So I've got my bulk here of spread shot around about 2 foot from the hook. And now I've got 3 number 10s there in another little mini bulk, so it's kind of like a double bulk, and what that does is it helps to get your hook bait down if there's lots of fish feeding in your peg, and also helps to register the bites, because you can really see when that mini bulk there settles, the float settles. If it doesn't, you've got to hold up and you've got to bite. So making the rig more positive like that can make a big difference on the day. And I was rewarded with that tench, so that wasn't what I was expecting, but I'd love to catch a couple more of them. At the moment I'm persevering with red maggot, but I keep trying corn and it's not really working at the moment, but I'm feeding a good amount in my ground bait, so hopefully the fish will switch onto it and we can start to really target the fish on the corn. That feels like a nice, decent sized roach. And these are the ones I'm going to need to be catching to hit Chappy's target, I reckon. Yep, that one's got to be, wow, that's got to be 8 ounces, that one. Look at him. Absolutely beautiful in the sun with his silver flank and beautiful red dorsal fin and tail. Well, that's a nice bonus. It's a absolutely beautiful hybrid. I'll just try and hold him up because he's a bit feisty. That's a roach bream hybrid, and whoa, got to be nudging a pound, that one. He's still fighting with me in the net, but see if I can hold him up there for Chappy to get. Absolutely beautiful. They fight so hard, hybrids. Much harder than a roach or a bream. I actually caught that on 3 casters. I was experimenting with different hook baits. I'm still not really catching on corn, but I've got another rig set up with a size 14 hook. So I tried corn and only caught a smaller roach. I'll try again 3 casters because that seemed to do the trick with that hybrid then. I'm still fishing at 11 metres. I'm putting a bit of ground bait every so often just past 11 metres, and I'll probably try it every so often just to see if there's any better fish just hanging past the main area. It's an intriguing peg, this. It's sloping away slightly. Oh, there we go, that was a bite on the drop and another little fish, so that's not what we want. But it also actually sloped slightly to the left as well. When I plumbed up, I noticed the further I went to the left, it was getting gradually deeper, so I'm bearing that in mind with my feeding as well. And as I mentioned at the start, I didn't try to feed everything really tight to start with, and I'm just trying to sort of pick fish off from different areas in the general area where I've been feeding. It's probably about maybe 6 inches deeper if I go to the left, so I'll try that now. And feed wise, I'm just continuing to be really positive and feeding a good ball of ground bait every other fish at the moment. This is a better stamped fish, so that was just to the left of the main area. So it's really nice at the moment. During the session I'm getting a nice pattern of picking up quality roach like that. Obviously the odd bonus fish with the tench and that hybrid, and just trying to avoid those smaller roach, but it's already turning into a fantastic session. I think I'll try 3 red maggots. Ooh, well, that's another nice fish. What have we got here? That might be another tensioner. Either that or a big hybrid. That was... Ooh, I'm just hanging on there. I'm fishing 011. So I'm not fishing really heavy. There's quite a lot of weed. It's like strandy weed that I'm having to play these better fish through, so I don't know what this is. It's fighting like mad. Just went on a right run then, and I can see some weed around the line, so I'm just going to take my time. I'm using a 6 elastic, a Preston 6, so it's not a really heavy elastic by any means, but it's great when you're catching a variety of fish like this. Obviously you don't want to be bumping the sort of standard size roach, I'm sort of regretting maybe not fishing a bit heavier elastic at the moment. I can feel it just pulling through a bit of weed there. Let's have a look and see what it is. Doesn't want to come up, that's for sure. I'm having to keep my pole up to keep it above that bank of weed. Let's have a look and see what it is. It's fighting like a tench. It's doing the sort of jagged digging all the time and wanting to stay on the bottom. Yeah, it's another tench. Beautiful tench. Well, this will help me towards my total if I can get this one as well. Here he comes. Not giving up, is he? I think he took one look at Chappy then and took off again. Come on. I think we got him now, look. Wonderful. Well, that was a right game. And as you often find with tench, this one's a male and this one fought really hard. It definitely fought harder than the other one. I think it's perhaps just a fraction bigger, but not much bigger, but boy did he fight. Right then, let's hold him up for you. And the reason I can tell he's a male is he's got big muscles around his pectoral fins, look. An absolutely massive dorsal fin and a big powerful tail. No wonder he fought so hard. Well, I've gone straight back in and hooked another good fish, and it feels like another tench. It's fighting differently to that one I just landed. It's just sort of pondering around on the inside. I think I might have to set up another rig with a bit stronger elastic. This might turn into a tench challenge rather than Chappy's sort of silverfish roach challenge, but I'm not complaining. It's great fun, and it's actually great to sort of play them on this tackle. It just shows with balanced tackle that you do have a chance of landing bigger bonus fish like this. It definitely is another tench. I'm just taking my time and hopefully we'll get him in. Not sure if he's ready yet. give up. Right then, I think we're winning now. We can get his head up, look. There we go. I think that one's the bigger one, the biggest one I've had today so far. It's absolutely beautiful. It's almost a bit golden as well. Yeah, that one's got to be 5 pounds. Again, I took that on 3 red maggots. Right, I'm going to hold this up. Look at that one. Absolutely beautiful. A proper chunk, that. Good job you let me count these then, Chappy.
Certainly is, James.
Yeah, that's a nice skimmer. Still on the 14 hook and 3 red maggots. It's got to be a couple of pounds. That's going to help towards my total. Well, that's the best roach of the day so far. It's got to be over a pound, that one. Absolutely beautiful. And I managed to start catching on the corn now. And look at that for a beautiful roach. So I'm still fishing a 14 hook, but I'm just fishing a piece of corn. And finally, after feeding a good amount of corn through the ground bait, the fish seem to have responded, and I've just had a good run of probably 8 to 10 roach, sort of good stamp, up to 8 ounces. So I was just telling myself I need to try and catch another 20 of those, and might start pushing towards Chappy's target of 40 pound. I've actually stepped up the elastic as well to a Preston 8 after hooking those tench, and given the fact that I'm fishing with a good 14 hook and a 0.11 hook length, it hasn't really hampered. I'm not bumping any of the better roach. I've bumped a few smaller roach, but it just gives me that bit of an insurance policy if I do hook another one of those nice big tench. Those are the ones we want. And feed wise, I've just continued with, as before, I'm putting a good ball of ground bait in every other fish, and it really is fantastic positive fishing, bit sort of reminiscent of fishing in Ireland really. Quite often I'm finding that if I haven't had a bite, if I throw a ball of ground bait on the float, I'm rewarded with a bite straight away. So the fish are really responding to the feed. That time then, that was almost intercepted on the drop. And I've got a more positive rig on as well. This is a gram float. I started off on a 0.6 of a gram, but as I mentioned, I started to get a few problems with smaller roach, but this is another beautiful roach. So kind of persevering and keeping positive and keeping feeding is really paying dividends now. Wow, that's another gorgeous roach. Perhaps not quite as big as the one before, but it's got to be getting on for a pound, that. Well, I'll just quickly show you the rigs I've used today. Really very simple. The rig I started on is this 0.6 Sensor's Desk. I think that's an Avon. I've actually put a sleeve over the top to black it out. Mainline on both the rigs has been 0.125 Vest Pro, and I started on an 0.9 hook length, ended up on a 0.11 12. Well, let's call it 0.11. That was the rig that I started on, and not quite knowing what to expect. I'd got some shot there, spread shot to start with in the bottom sort of third, and then I've made a double bolt rig which worked really well, and that was in conjunction with the 6 Preston elastic. And then once I'd hooked those tench, and the sort of game changer really was switching over to the sweet corn. I've used the same pattern float in a gram, and I've used an Olivet. I'll just tidy that a bit, it's all got a bit messy, with 4 number 9 as a double bulk. So yeah, very positive rig, and in that case I was using a 14 carbon match. I started off with a 16 carbon match. So there you go. I'll just get this nice roach in and talk to you about the ground bait I'm using. They really are feeding well on the corn now. I'm not even trying maggot, I'm just fishing single corn. I think that's a hybrid, not a roach. But it's such a positive way of fishing when you can get them on the corn like this. Look at that. Absolutely brilliant. So I referenced the ground bait at the start and talked about the fact that it was predominantly brown crumb. I buy my brown crumb in bulk in sacks from Lanes in Coventry, and I'm actually using the medium grade rather than the fine, and I'm keeping it in this tub. So I've got the bulk of it in a bucket behind me, and I quite like feeding it like this because what I'm doing is I can vary what feed I'm putting through with the ground bait. So to start with, I was putting a lot of casters in and a bit of corn, and now I don't know if Chappy can see, but I'm actually, when I form a ball like that, it's actually got a lot of corn in. Obviously the fish are really feeding well on the corn, and I want to introduce as much as I can. So this ground bait has got 30% ground pelleting, which I think's a great advantage when you're fishing on a lake like this, which gets a lot of pellets fed for the carp. I think the silverfish like the roach and the bream actually really like the pellets. And another consideration for me is how easy it is to squeeze a ball, because I'm feeding a ball very regularly every other cast out. I want to be able to just form the ball with my left hand very easily. I'm not worried about making it round. I suppose it's more like a sausage really, isn't it? But it's packed with feed. I can form the ball. I actually swap to my right hand and then throw it out. So on another day, maybe the fish weren't responding as well as they are. You know, I might not be putting as big a ball in. I might be putting more casters in, maybe a few dead maggots. But it's all about just adapting to how the peg is responding. And obviously today, it's just got stronger and stronger. So I've got quite a few maggots here, and I haven't even put any maggots in, because that can be a good trick as well. On a harder day, just introducing a few live maggots into your ground bait when you make a ball can really work well and sort of revitalise the peg. Another consideration to think about is how wet you make the ground bait. So the way I've mixed this, I've actually made it quite inert by, when I mixed it, I added a lot of water very quickly to kind of kill the ground bait, and I also put some molasses in with the water, which helps to make it that little bit sticky as well. What I've found today is every so often, by adding a few casters and a bit of water from the casters, I'm just making the mix a little bit wetter and even more sticky, so that I can really pack the feed into the ball of ground bait. So there we go. It's obviously proved devastating today. It's a very simple mix and a very cheap mix when you think about the fact that I've probably fed already, I don't know, 3/4 of a bucket of ground bait and 2.5 cans of corn. But cost wise, obviously that's a lot cheaper than buying an expensive ground bait and adding in lots of casters. So even though I'm pretty much getting a bite every cast, I've been experimenting with how I'm sort of laying and placing my rig into the water. I just think I've got a bit of weed on there. No, it's off. So most of the time I'm just laying it in nicely, keeping a tight line, even though I'm fishing with a double bulk, so I can just really watch the shot settle and hopefully register the bites. When I was fishing with the maggot, when the smaller fish moved in, I was just getting the bait intercepted too much by small fish. So I started to kind of dump the rig in, which I'll show you next time. But a lovely quality fish. So I'll go back in with another piece of corn, and sometimes if you are faced with smaller fish that are perhaps hanging up in the water, you can just drop your rig straight down to the bottom like that. And you know, if you're trying to target bigger fish like bream And if you notice then, there's a fish there that's basically grabbed it on the way down. I'll do that again. So the other way, the other type of presentation is just to dump the rig in like that. So everything just goes straight down to the bottom and hopefully bypasses any small fish that might be feeding up in the water. And that then just settled, the mini bulk settled and had a good positive bite. So it's been interesting just playing around with that. And another thing I did actually when I had the bream was I actually swung the rig out past where I'd been feeding. So I'll just show you that. But look at that for a roach. So every so often I've been throwing a ball of ground bait a bit past the tip of my pole. Not quite onto the 13 metre line, but certainly past the 11 metre line. And just every so often, instead of sort of swinging the bait in to the left, I've actually been swinging it out. So I'm fishing past my pole tip now. And sometimes, you know, probably on a harder day, when you're just looking for a bonus fish, that can work really well. But there's so many fish in my peg now, it doesn't really matter where I put it. Oh, and a good dig around some of these fish. They really are strong and super fit. Well, Chappy's just called time on the match, so that's my last fish, and it's another beautiful roach to end on. Still catching on the corn. I've had a really good run of fish on the corn. Haven't had any more bonus fish like bream or tench, but I've had a wonderful day's fishing and just have to see if I've hit Chappy's challenge target of £40. Well, very kindly Simon, one of the local syndicate members of the lake, has said he'll weigh the fish for us, so thanks Simon.
Pleasure. Nice fish there.
Yeah, I want to be really careful with them, so we're using the mat and everything.
Okay.
Do you think they'll go in like that?
Yeah, could be.
He's in.
You need to leave that up there. Oh, it's bottomed out.
Yeah, what are the scales up to?
60.
Up to £60.
Yeah, way over.
So I beat the target anyway.
Yeah, it's way over £60.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you so much.
It's more like 70 plus, I would say.
I'm just going to quickly show the fish to the camera. See if Chappy can get in on them. Wow, what an amazing day's fishing. Thanks to Simon for his help and to John and everyone at Packington. Thanks for watching.